Okay, I think we'll kick off. It's just gone 2 minutes past 1300 hours. We're going to be here for about an hour, and we're delighted today to welcome from the Passive House Institute, Susanne Winkel. Susanne is addressing an area that was causing some concern amongst many people who were already certified with Passive House certification, and were wondering how they could maintain their certification. Many of them were certified back in as far back as 2009, and we have a significant number of certified Passive House consultants, designers and tradespersons in Ireland, as we know, who have been very active in delivering and helping roll out NZEB in the country. Susanne's a senior scientist, architect, with a focus on training and education, and joined the Passive House Institute team in 2008. In the Passive House Institute, she heads up the training section and is in charge of operational work on certified Passive House designer schemes. Susanne also looks after consulting and certification of various building projects. Today, Susanne will provide an overview of the certified Passive House designer and tradesperson accreditation process, and how you can retain and renew your certification. So welcome, Susanne. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for this introduction. Yeah, so I will show my screen. 1 minute, please. So now you should see my screen.
Yeah, it's looking good, Susanne. I might say we're going to have a poll as well. Would you prefer if we ran it before your presentation? Just to see how many certified Passive House designers and tradespeople we have, or would you like it after your presentation?
Or you can do like you want, maybe at the beginning, so people.
Yeah, maybe Brian, if we could do that.
Okay.
And do the single choice.
Yeah. So we wait a few minutes for people to fill it out.
Not too long now. We're piping in. It's fairly straightforward. Are you a certified Passive House designer? Are you a Passive House consultant, a tradesperson, or has it lapsed? Are you a lapsed Passive House designer, consultant, or tradesperson, or do you hope to get certified training within 12 months? Okay, well, thank you, and off we go, Susanne. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now I should start my presentation, shouldn't I?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very interested how of the results of the poll, but let's start with the presentation. Yeah, so I would like to, as John told you before, I would like to show you, give you a bit an overview about Passive House training, pathways of Passive House training, and then we will go a bit into the detail how to renew also your certificate, how to get your certificate at the first time, and then how to renew it also. Okay, yeah, let's start with the question you might have. One moment. So no, it's okay. With the question you might have, why do we need a special training on Passive House? So I would like to give you a few examples. So there is an excerpt of the slides course for the designer course and for the tradesperson course, but really a really small excerpt, only a few slides, to give you an idea what you can expect in Passive House training. And yeah, I won't go into the detail of the technical things of those slides, just show you what is important for Passive House training for designers and for tradespeople also. So maybe let's start from going from small to large. So high energy efficiency and Passive House is not only but also about details, and it's about the impact of those details on energy efficiency, which is often much more than we usually expect. So this is for sure. And it's very important, and this is what we want you to learn in those trainings, is that you can have an idea about the consequences if details are not thought through to the end. And of course, how you can deal with special details. yeah, so we would like you to have more information on how you really can bring the passive house planning into reality, so that you won't miss very important topics. So we cannot stop with passive houses at the planning. We want to have the buildings in operation to be passive houses, really passive houses. So the topic of reality is very important for passive house at all. And bringing into passive house into action, of course, is very important to have trainings for people on site. So this is a slide from the tradesperson training, where you can see that it's very important that also at the tradesperson training we go much more into the details and give you information how you really can bring those details really on site, not only the planning, but make sure that the passive house, the planned passive house, is the passive house, and also in reality. But it's not only about details, of course. It's also about understanding the scientific background. So this is a slide from the designer training. It's very important that you know what's going on site and with buildings at all. Understanding the building science, especially at renovations and retrofits, where you know all about this. Sometimes you have to find special adapted solutions for each project, or many adapted solutions within one project. So it's really necessary that people who are planning and designing passive houses really know about the building science. And of course, we want to give you this information in these courses. And you know all, it's also about economics, about money. The training of passive house, the designer's training, and also the tradesperson, not so into detail, but also of course the tradesperson training, is that you can be sure that for designers, your planning, your consultations can be not only technical, sound and safe, but also economical. So this is a very important topic. It has to work in reality for your clients. Yeah, maybe you were recently told, or your clients were recently told, just put some photovoltaics on the roof, then it's fine. Of course, we are really, it's really needed that we take the renewables and we use them. But as you can see here in the slides, there will be in our climate, there will be a really big winter gap. You can see with the gray bars here, it's the demand of the buildings in the new build conventional building in Germany. And you can see the orange bars here. This is of the passive house, of the high energy efficient buildings. And the dots, the yellow dots, are the solar gains. And you see here that it's not only done with taking renewables, especially solar energy. We have to go down with the consumption. And maybe this slide and also many other slides in the trainings will give you also some information how you can deal with questions or with informations your clients and people who are asking you for your consultations are dealing with. So this is not only about the planning, but also about communication with your clients. Yeah, so this was really a very short excerpt of the trainings, just to give you information. This is not only on technical things, but it's really a whole topic how we can together build and realize high energy efficient buildings. Yeah, now the question, how does this training work? So Passive House Institute developed a pathway of trainings. So we have trainings for tradesperson, people on site, working on site, and also for designers and consultants. These are people doing plannings, so architects, engineers, civil engineers. And then we saw that we need some special trainings going more into the details, of some special topics like the retrofit add-on training here, or special training for site supervisors, for people who have to deal on site with complex buildings or large building projects. And then we have, for example, for the designers, some add-on trainings for example, PHP expert, going much more into the detail for the energy balance passive house planning project, planning packet. So this is there are some add-on trainings. And of course, as you know, we are not doing all these trainings from PHI here. We are in cooperation with many course providers worldwide. You can find them at our website. And you can find, of course, you can see, you know your course providers here in Ireland. You would find those also on our website here. And the course providers worldwide made really a good job also, especially in the last 2 years, about 3 years, putting those trainings also online or going back to in-class where it's possible and where it's also needed, and really, a better thing to do it in class, to do it live, to do it on demand, so e-learnings. So there's a great range of how the training is offered, but what is the same for all is that at the end there is a qualification proof, an exam, and after passing this exam, you will get a certificate. And this is a really good situation because you can see, you can know that who has this qualification, the certificate, has the same knowledge regarding energy efficiency all around the world. So this is really quite a good thing that you can rely on the knowledge of people worldwide. Maybe if you're also working not only in Ireland, also in other countries, then you can use the certificate also in other countries. This is known also in other countries. Yeah, so let's go more deeper into detail regarding the tradesperson at the first time, and then I will go later to the designers, to the architects and engineers. So if you are a tradesperson and want to get this certification, you have the possibility to take a course and then afterwards doing the exam. And after passing the exam, you will get the certificate by the Passive House Institute, and then you are a certified Passive House tradesperson, and this certificate is valid for 5 years. What about the exam? A few words more in detail. So this is an online exam. It's available in different languages, of course, also in English. And there will be a technical check a few days before this online exam, so you can be sure that you can get familiar with the system, so you really can concentrate at the exam on the questions. And these are possible in class or as home office variants, so this depends on your course provider, what he's offering or she's offering to you, what kind of online exam. Yeah, how to renew the certificate after those 5 years. There you have not the possibility to do an exam again, so this is excluded, but you have 2 other possibilities. You can submit a documentation of your own work, for example, and this work should be then in the construction of a passive house or a high energy efficient building. And the other possibility would be that you can get credit points by going to courses, events, or if you are a teacher for yourself with passive house topics, then you can renew also with those credit points your certificate. Then the same like before, the certificate will be given out by the Passive House Institute, and then you are again a certified Passive House tradesperson. This certificate is also valid for 5 years. And then after this 5 years, you can do it again as often as you like. So maybe I can go more into detail regarding this documentation of your work. For the tradespeople documentation, it's a case that this building don't have to be certified passive house. It could be also energy efficient building you work on. Because for tradespeople, of course, it's easier to have those projects, to work on those projects. The topic would be you going to the website and you are choosing your climate, and you can see then you can choose your discipline. So if you are working with windows, or if you are more in building service, whatever. And then there are some templates here, or some tables where you can see which is seen as a high energy efficient detail. So for example, if you are doing working on a site where in our climate, only 5 centimeters of insulation is put on. This, of course, won't fit for showing that you are dealing with high energy efficient work. So, but if you are then having a project and working on a project where you implement 25 or 30 centimeters of insulation, then it could be work for this trades documentation. And then there are several templates. You just put some photos in and a few lines of text, and then you can send those documentation to PHI or also to assessing bodies called partners, which who are cooperating with Passive House Institute also. And this is possible in other languages depending on those assessing body you are choosing. So if you are maybe working or want to work also in Spain and you are feeling more familiar in this language, then you could also search for a Spanish assessing body. But I think most of you will be fine with the English one in your country. Okay, so yeah, credit points for the tradesperson. Tradespeople need 30 credit points within those 5 years, so that's not so much. You can find events or courses at our website. So there are 2 lists, one for the designers and one for the tradespeople, and there you can choose your events or courses you want to take part, and you can see how many credit points there are. If you want to take a course or an event you cannot find on this list, please get in contact with our Irish partner or with PHI itself. Then, of course, we will get in contact with those event managers, and then we can hopefully get this on this list. This is, again, only possible for the renewal, so you can't get the credit certificate at the first time with credit points. Okay, so how about the designers, so architects and engineers? So there's the same possibility also doing a course in the exam, this theoretical qualification. And as a special topic here for the designers, it's that you can also get your first qualification as a Passive House designer or consultant by submitting a documentation of your projects. And this then has to be a certified project. I will tell you later why. And then the same system, you will get the certification by the Passive House Institute and the certificate for a designer or consultant, which is valid for 5 years. Then again, the same slide, an online exam is offered here, also technical check before, the same like the tradesperson exam. It's a bit larger, of course, this exam, like the course, but it's the same system. The project documentation, as I said, this building has to be certified because, of course, we have to make sure that those buildings you are showing your knowledge on is really a high energy efficient building. And to make sure that this building is a high energy efficient building, then we can do the certification of a building at the same time. So it's the same thing. We have to make sure that the building is certified. And this is, of course, easier if you have the certificate of this building, this project. You can use not only new builds, but you can use also projects, retrofit projects, NFIT projects, and also low energy houses. So if you won't reach the 15 kilowatt hours per square meter a year, then you can use also projects reaching this low energy house standard. And what is really special here, or really important here, is this is not only a topic that we want to know if you are a good designer or if you have all knowledge. For us, it's very important to have many good examples on the website so that people can really have a look on many, many projects, also in detail. And this is your documentation for. So this documentation will be shown on our website. And here are some examples. So you can also make your advertising with this. So you will list it on our website and you can link to this, of course, also a benefit for you, hopefully. Yes, the system, how to submit to PHI or to an assessing body, and the same with the language, English, German, and also other languages, if you like. If you have other languages, then the summary has to be in English, because when it's on our website, then of course people also from other countries we have to make sure that all people all about the world can see what this project is about. Yeah, so now to have a look on the renewal of the certificate. If you are a passive house designer consultant and you want to renew after those 5 years your certificate, you have two possibilities. Again, like the tradespeople, there's no possibility to do an exam again. This possibility is only if you are not passing at the first time, but we hope that you pass at the first time, so there won't be the possibility to renew the certificate with another exam. But you have also two possibilities to renew your certificate. The first, again, like the tradespeople, credit points, getting credit points by courses, events, teaching activities. And then you can also use the practical qualification, the submitting of a documentation of a certified passive house. You can use this possibility also to renew. So this is the same like before for the first qualification of the designer certificate. You can use this also for the renewal. And then again, same system, certification by the Passive House Institute. And then you will get the new certificate. And this is valid for 5 years. And you can do it as often as you like, similar to the tradespeople. Yeah, exactly the same for the tradesperson. The only difference is that designers have to get 100 credit points for the renewal if you're going this way. And so this is quite wise to not wait until the last year, because 100 credit points in 1 year or half a year, this is quite a challenge. So it would be very good if you are just after your exam, after your course, you're starting your, let's say, passive house designer career. And so it would be good if you just keep contact and searching on courses, what you can do, or events to have a good networking with other passive house professionals. So it would be good to start this collecting credit points right after your first qualification. So then you can be the passive house community right from the first day. I think this not only benefit for this credit points, but also that you can find lots of networking opportunities, possibilities to ask questions and so on. So I think this is a good possibility to stay in this in line to really have the possibility to build and plan passive house projects. So I'm at the end of my presentation. Maybe I can give you the information for at the first one of the first slides. I show you this pathway of certification, where it was shown also the add-on trainings. So these add-on trainings are if you are doing such an add-on training, you can get also credit points for this, of course, to renew your certificate. And you will get then those little signs together with your main certificate. So you don't have to renew those add-on certificates because they are renewed automatically with the renewal of your main certificate, designer, tradespeople, or consultant. Yeah, thank you very much for being here. And I'm happy to answer your question.
Thank you very much, Susanne. I think before we've got a number of questions coming in here. Before we answer the questions, I wonder, Brian, if you can pop up the poll results for us.
Yeah, very interesting.
It'd be quite interesting. And can everyone see those?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
So we have quite a number of certified passive house designers. And we've quite a number of lapsed, which we thought might be an issue. You can see there 17%. And then there's a lot of people looking for training. We put up there on the chat, I hope everyone was able to see it, a link to the location of training in Ireland. It's on the Passive House site there. I think that went up. If it's not, we'll make sure it goes up before the seminar is finished. But it's an interesting broad spectrum of what we've got, and I would say it's probably similar to what you'd find in the UK and other jurisdictions. Now we have a number of questions. We've got one from John Heaney. Are there templates or an online version of the documentation for renewal of the designer certificate available from the PHI? And is there a minimum number of projects needed for renewal? Susanne?
I didn't get the first word. So can you?
Is there a template? Is there a particular structure that you have to submit documentation for?
Yeah, so there's a template for the designer. There's also a template at our website, so it's quite easy to go through it. So as the first, as you saw in the picture, there's a summary at the beginning, so you can put just the values in and have some photos, and then you have to write a bit more text than the tradesperson. So describe your project and put on your plans and photos and also details, describe interested people and also other architects and designers and planners how to build passive houses, how to plan passive houses. And maybe there's one word for you if you have problems to get that your clients allow you to show those pictures on a website, then of course we will find a possibility to hide it. So you can do your project documentation also if your client won't agree to publish those things. This is sometimes this is a problem, but of course then it's not seen on the website. You're really good project, but you can get this certification also if this is not possible from the side of your client.
Okay, and if I might just say from experience, it's probably a good idea to get that documentation together when you're going for certification for the building in the first place, not maybe 2 or 3 years later when you're trying to find everything. It's useful. Barbara has a question here. Hello there. Do you have to be working on a passive house design to take the course as a designer? My intent is to take the course and then hopefully start working on a passive house design and accreditation.
This is the intention. So give you information how to plan and how to build passive houses, and then you can start those. So this is you don't have to be in touch with high energy efficient buildings before the course. We will teach you. So our course providers will teach you what you need to know about planning passive houses.
Okay. Where can one get the designer consultant continuing education events form shown in the presentation?
You're talking about the templates?
Yeah.
So the templates are at our website. You can find it, but of course we can find a possibility if you want to see this on the partner's website, then we should talk, John.
Yeah, we'll organize that, James, and we'll get them up on the PHAI.
So that you can easily find it,
Yeah. Can you renew even after the 5 years is passed? In other words, you've lapsed.
Yeah.
E.g., if you don't have enough points at the time, if so, what's the procedure?
Okay, so a few years ago we were a bit more stricter that you really have to do this in the 5 years, but it's important that you are going on with your passive house knowledge or with passive house activity, and if there is a year or two between expiring the certificate and renewing, this is not a problem. So we made it a bit more comfortable for you. So yeah,
it's interesting. The next two questions more or less are the same. You know, how many years can you go back regarding renewal points?
So and it's good that we are doing this in this way.
Yeah, and then Simon saying, what are the options if your certification lapses after 5 years and you haven't achieved enough credits or completed a certified project? Could you renew with a certified documented project after the 5 years, for example?
So you after this, so there's no problem to submit a project documentation for designers at any time. So even if you have 10 years in between, because this could be also done like for the first qualification. So then it would be like you get the first qualification. But if you are not ready with collecting credit points within this 5 years, you need a bit more time than just get in contact. So for us, it's very important that you are online, that you are keeping contact and doing things but many people have many reasons that it's not possible at the moment to do those trainings, and we will find a solution for this. Just get in contact for the renewal.
That's good. I've just one for you myself. The tradesperson's course, how long does that take generally?
So we from the Passive House Institute, we are offering more theoretical training to those course providers who are offering this to the clients, to the tradesperson. And this training is about 3 days if you're doing only one specification. So this is, you can do those trainings, tradesperson training as a tradesperson dealing with building envelope, or you can do as dealing with building service, or you can do both. So this is 3 days training for one specification, and if you want to do both specifications, then you have to do 2 days extra. But this is only the theoretical training. Also, the exam is referring on. But of course, it's very important that especially for tradespeople, there are offers also for training with their hands. So offering mock-up trainings, whatever. And we have had some experiences or some examples in Ireland, especially, where they're doing a really good job on those trainings. And yeah, it's very important that tradespeople, of course, get tradespeople training and not only theoretical.
Yeah, critical. And I think we need to get that less Dublin centric here, and move it around onto the west, just to distribute it around the entire country as much as we can. But it's coming, it's happening, and it's really positive. Susanne, that's been very enlightening, and I think a relief to many people in relation to, you know, what would be perceived slight relaxation in how you're looking at the 5 years, and how people can try to, you know, stay in touch. Because I remember years, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we had 250 Passive House, certified Passive House designers in the country, I believe, which is a lot of people. We had, you know, quite a significant amount of penetration in the market, which has helped, as I said earlier, bringing in the whole NZ process. Yeah, and thank you a million.
Sorry,
Okay.
just in the office here, we've dealt with the project and the certification through project documentation over the last 12 months, 2 different routes, and dealing with the institute directly was very efficient and very, you know, as it was it's a simpler process. So just my own personal experiences, it was very efficient and a quick turnaround to get your renewal or to documentation review complete. Yeah,
that's great.
Okay.
We're actually going to have another poll at the end of this presentation as well. We're going to, now that our COVID situation is relaxed somewhat at the moment anyway, we're looking at doing a few in-person events next year, which we've been doing for many years here. And we're looking at venues and where the populations would like us to focus on. So you might have a look at that poll in a while. We might do it at the end of the presentation. We have coming up now, we've got Bob Ryan, who's 15 years of experience in training, software, graphics, the construction of Passive House, NZ and low energy building of all types and sizes. And Bob is going to give an introduction to the new thermal details. He's with Earth Cycle Technologies, and Bob provides a comprehensive Passive House consultancy offering certification, thermal bridging, moisture studies, and detailing, also addressing Irish building regs. So these details will be focusing on the Irish context, and Bob is going to hopefully now explain where we're going with them and how we get access to them via the PHAI website, and how we're all going to be able to use them and populate our PHPP version 10 or otherwise effectively with them. So over to you, Bob.
Great, thanks, John. The only one thing I would add to that is I'm also an NSAI accredited thermal modeler. So a lot of the calculations that will be here can be used for building regulations calculations as well. I'm just going to jump in, share the screen. Okay. Okay, so at the moment, there's a limited amount of coefficients that we can use for both building regulations and passive house. We realized there was a bit of a gap there, and we wanted to be able to give people some values that could be used to either use a judgment call or to use in full for the PHPB calculations if their details matched. So a while ago, we decided that we would actually calculate a generic set of details, or at least more what they are is actually a package of coefficients for a general scenario. So let's say you have like the most common one, external insulation. We basically took the most common occurring details for that construction type, calculated the psi values, the moisture movement and the U values, and basically this whole package for each one of 25 details covering the most common scenarios. We gave the psi values and U values and all that kind of thing. So just a bit of a summary, there's only 20 NSAI accredited thermal modelers on the scheme at the moment. For me, it was almost impossible to do thermal modeling. You know, it's for that amount of thermal modelers, it's near impossible to get everyone covered with their Y value calcs, and even with passive house calcs as well. It's hard to get around everyone. So the idea of these packs is to make it easier on the industry by having some default values that could be used under given circumstances. And this was co-funded both by me, the principal of Earth Cycle Technologies, and PHAI. And just as a side to this, Passive House Institute, TU Dublin, and myself all have thermal bridging training as well. My training can be used for Passive House. TU Dublin can be used for building regulations training, thermal bridging, and Passive House Institute also do a thermal bridging course for Passive House thermal bridging. So in terms of making it more widespread, there is a lot of resources there where training can be availed of, as well as these packs. So what's in the package? We've basically got the psi value, which is basically just the heat flow correction for that junction. We've got an FRSI value, which can be used to determine the surface temperature on the inside of the detail for any given climate. We've got the psi and FRSI, obviously, for building regulations as well within the same pack. Every detail covers both standards. The U value is an applicable range over which the U value can be used for building regulations. And there's a lot of caveats that explain where it can and can't be used, but it's down to the person that's adopting it who's completely responsible for whether they adopt it or not. And that's really well covered in their building regulations and detailed on the cover sheets of it. And then there's also glazier calculations. I don't think there's any assemblies that warrant woofy calculations, and it'll be totally outside the scope. But there are glazier calculations for each of the assemblies as well. So starting out, the details we started with, we said we'd do 25 details. We took timber frame, external insulation, and retrofits with external insulation. And I think there's actually a few more than what's shown here. I want to show a suspended timber floor, just because we have a lot of it here. And I know external insulation and retrofit external insulation are kind of the same, but we've shown a different variant in any of the retrofit external insulation details. And what's really good about this is you can see the difference, and I'll show you now in a minute, between a retrofit detail and a normal passive house detail. And that's something that's really quite useful for. Right, so let's open up one of the packs. Okay, so basically on the first page on the top left, you've got your psi value for passive house and your psi value for part L. Then over here, you've got an FRSI, which is the factor of the temperature difference between outside and the surface temperature over the overall temperature difference between inside and outside. Now that factor, no matter what boundary conditions are used, can be calculated and used to determine the surface temperature across any range of inside and outside temperatures. So that factor stands even though to combine the two calcs we used 20 internal and 0 outside as per Irish convention. And also the psi value doesn't change if it's calculated properly. The boundary conditions could be 1 degree inside and 0 outside, and you will still get the same result. So we tested all that and it works fine. Then in this section, it also tells you based on whether it's the different uses where that FRSI would be suitable for. And then we've just got U values and number of nodes involved in the number of nodes in the model, and then general assumptions and what we factored in. That's all on the cover page. Then on the next page, we have what we actually calculated. It's not as such a detail, but more an arrangement of materials to which you can apply the psi value. And obviously there's no thermal break here because it's retrofit, and unless we're going to prop the whole building up, we can't get it in there. And hence also why the psi value for passive house and for building regulations is absolutely terrible. But it's very useful to have this detail if you're in a retrofit scenario, or if you wanted to know what it would be like without a thermal break. We then have the convention of dimensions for the extents of the model. And then we're into the software report. Now there is one slight bug in this that I need to fix. If you can notice it, fair play to you, but I will fix that now in the next hour and put it up. But basically, just to explain, this software report gives the psi value for passive house, the psi value for part L, and the calculated FRSI, and then it goes into more detail on materials, boundary conditions for FRSI, the subdivision mesh, the flow inside and outside of the boundary conditions, the modeling U values, and all that kind of thing as well. Then, of course, the next part is the modeling U value itself for the ground condition, and it's all fine. And then we basically have a build desk U calc, which we use to calculate the actual U value of the wall, which is needed for our building regulations calculations and the moisture movement as well. Now, this doesn't take into account driving rain or any kind of different forces. But under the conditions that we're using it for, it fits the bill. Now, how do we use this psi value? I have just made earlier. Okay, so this is the Muse and Sandy Cove. And what I'm going to do is take this model and enter the thermal bridge from this sample pack. Okay, so I also have the PHP here, and it's quite simple. You go into the areas tab in PHP. I know I have colored all these bottom ones. That's just my check-in procedure, and they're slightly different to the normal PHP. And in fact, this is PHP 9. There's now PHP 10, which doesn't differ a whole lot. But anyway, so we want to name our thermal bridge and call it rising wall. Then we want to give it a group number, and up the top there are group numbers for different thermal bridges, and this would be a perimeter thermal bridge where it's at the edge of the slab. Ambient thermal bridges are everything above ground, and then thermal bridges floor, slab, basement, ceiling are ones that are submersed underground and not at the edge of where it touches the soil and is half ambient. Okay, so 16 is what we want there. We can pop that in, 16. And then the psi value is 0.193 watts per meter Kelvin for passive house. And then its length. Now, there is a function in design passive house where you can measure all the lengths, but I actually prefer to do something a little bit different. This perimeter thermal bridge is obviously running all the way around the perimeter of the base of this building. So what I like to do is either double click a face and deselect the face so that I can get the continuous length, which for me is a lot quicker and easier. Or you can go around and click the individual lines that measure the thermal bridge. But I'm not going to do that. Okay, so it's 39.4 meters. We pop the length in, 39.4. And now our thermal bridge is in there. It is, isn't it? Yes. Oh, the FRSI we can also put in as well, 0.795. And it's telling you that it's meeting it. And if we go to verification now, we were making the standard before, are we now? No. And of course, as we all know, that's the reason for EnerFit, because when you have a base of a building with a thermal bridge you can't avoid, and then all the internal walls thermal bridges, it's almost impossible to get the 15 kilowatt hours. Okay, if I go back to my presentation, I just want to say that hold on, here we go. So for passive house conventions, the detail has to almost match exactly. And that's okay. But when it comes to window situations, you actually have to have the actual geometry of the window in the model. Now we're going to do calculations with one variant of one window. So a lot of judgment will have to be made if it's suitable for another window. For building regulations, as long as you're within the tolerable range given by SEAI for the difference in U values and the junction matches exactly, the details could be used. But the bottom line on all of this is the responsibility is that assumes or adopts the psi value in their calculations. So just to clarify on that. Okay, so we've entered it into PHP. That's me. Hope I haven't done on too long.
Thank you, Bob. It was very informative. I think your comment there about the accredited or acceptable details is important. U value range, we've seen people falling foul of that quite a bit.
Yeah,
they think they're using an accredited detail and they're actually outside the U value range and they can't use it. Particularly where the U values are so different, you end up getting a massive increase in thermal bridging. You going back onto any other page there? Are you finished?
no, I've stopped sharing, John. No, I'm okay.
Okay. So you just happen to be still sharing there for the moment, but that's okay.
Oh.
Right. Questions? One thing there, Bob, you might clarify what software you were using to do your modeling takeoff for your perimeter.
Everyone loves this, don't they? Oh, sorry. Actually, that modeling software was SketchUp.
Yeah.
So we use the SketchUp Design Passive House plugin for all our PHP work, and it's super.
Design PH.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just a Design PH plugin, and actually, just to talk, can I talk briefly for a second, John?
Yeah, please do.
It has saved my life. You know, I lost my 20s to the shading sheet in PHP, and now Design PH, you just model a simple shell with outlines for all the different windows, doors, and all the rest of it. And then it automatically makes the windows and doors, and you just put the specification on it and press run with all the shading that you model all the way around it. And it dynamically works out the shading coefficients automatically, puts them in PHP. And, you know, it's just beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful program. I thought you were going to ask actually what the thermal modeling software is.
That's coming up. We've got John Heaney's asking that. What software are you using for the psi and FRSI values?
Yeah, so this is my absolute baby. I don't own the software and I'm not a reseller, but it's the best thing that I've ever come across. It's Mold Simulator by Dartwin. And basically it's just thermal bridging for kids. It's like, you know,
Oh, oh, yeah, right.
I was
There's no
just,
such thing as
of
thermal
course.
bridging for kids. Yeah, yeah.
No, but what I mean is I've had 10 different softwares for thermal modeling, and this one just makes the process so much easier. It's very fast. You know, you can double click the end of a section and it'll turn the whole thing into adiabatic. You know, it's just, there's just so many little tricks and shortcuts and stuff like that. I actually do offer a course in thermal modeling for Passive House. And you technically, well, I won't say that, but the course I offer for Passive House basically goes through how to get everything you need out of the software to do thermal modeling. And now it's not I do PHI have an accredited thermal modeling course. Because
Sure,
mine
I'm not sure. I think they do, actually. I think they
yeah,
do. Yeah.
just to be
Like
clear,
one person's,
yeah, well, maybe ask Susanna. Just to be clear, mine is not accredited by PHI as yet. It's
Okay.
something I'll have to work on, you know.
Susanne, could you come in there?
Yes, so we have, I would like, wanted to talk to you with this also, but it's not time to make it here. So we have this an add-on training, PHPP expert it's called, and there's a training of 1 day thermal bridge like you are doing. I'm not sure how long your training lasts, but this is about 1 day thermal bridging, is 1 day of PHPP in detail, so this PHPP for non-residentials, and also this variant sheets for retrofit and so on. And the last day of those add-on training is design PH mainly. And this could mainly, if you are here now that you're doing this could fit quite well to your offers maybe, because you are doing this right. So we can, after this meeting, we will talk about how to implement this, also this add-on training for you.
Yeah.
That would be very helpful. Now, some more questions. We've got, can Bob clarify what you have to do at Windows if they don't exactly match the data on the generic detail?
Yes, then it's because I had this in certification recently where I used a dummy window to calculate the side value, and they asked for the geometry of the window to be put in. So unfortunately, I think you actually have to model the window situation with the actual window to get an accurate number. And you know, this is kind of the reason why sometimes I stress people actually learning to do thermal modeling, because you know no, I've lost my point. Sorry, I've lost my point.
That's okay. Yeah. Anyway, thermal modeling, it can get quite deep, thermal modeling. It's complex. And another thing, just on the moisture, I think it would be fair to say it's really important to check the BS 5250 requirement in relation to whether you can use the Glaser method, which you were using there, or whether you have to go full woofy hydrothermal. Exactly. That's the 15026 standard, which is, it's really important, particularly when you're doing retrofit and definitely when you're doing any internal insulation. We have another question here. I put the design PH is now up on the chat, just the name of the software that someone asked about there. And then we've John Heaney, and based in the UK from Meath. How are you, John? We had a thermal bridge modeling informal training via Flixa from Warm. We're also PH certifiers and trainers. That's very useful. And Warm actually a great outfit. They produce some very good plugins as well for PHPP software, which have been used by all of us for many years now. Garode, surface temperature and the FRSI factor. Does Passivhaus use or recommend higher resistances for calculation for areas behind cupboards and built-in furniture? And yeah, that's a really important question.
So yeah, we use 0.25 resistance on everything inside when we're doing surface. temperature calculations. And one thing that's kind of missed, and it doesn't really stay too much of it in building regulations, is that like if you move to a colder climate, you have to recalculate the surface temperature on the inside using the FRSI. So that's something to take care of
So
too.
I think, Garrod, we would, I think we use even higher resistance factors for in cupboards, built-in furniture, and even under stairs, because the air does not circulate in those. So there is a requirement, and it's actually on Passipedia what the actual criteria are. We can maybe put a link up to that later. Kevin meant the thermal modeling for kids. Yeah, right. That's the mold software.
Lena, please vouch for me.
Yeah, and then Garrod has just put that
Well,
up on
yeah.
Passipedia. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Some of
I think
the
that's
team,
really
yeah.
important.
Some of the team here have used the mold under Bob's kind of tutoring, and yeah, no, it's very helpful when we're trying to just test things out in house that we're confident it'll, when it hits someone else's desk, it'll work. Yeah, but it's very useful. Yeah, the guys here, and I don't use it myself. The guys in the office, two of them here use it, and seem happy with it. Yeah.
Garrod has put a link. I hope everyone can see it there up in the questions, can they? And if not, Brian, maybe you could put it up there to the building physics basics thermal bridges calculation, basic principle for calculation. And it shows the two values, 0.5 and 1. And it is because there's not air movement in those areas, and the resistance is higher as a result. Also, I think there's a lot of discussion amongst people about taking the FRSI values and taking the cold point to the surface face of the wall rather than the surface face of the inside of the service cavity, where a lot of the trouble starts. A lot of us feel that the standards are remiss, going for the surface that you see, all the troubles behind, you know. So that could also have an impact on what type of resistance values you use. So you can accelerate the risk on these things if you're concerned about things. Yeah. So now we're hitting time now, 13:59. So I'm going to wrap up here. I think that's all our questions. I'd like to thank everyone who presented today. It was really informative. We've got more coming, more very informative things. Helena McNamee, who you see there, who's in the video, at least I do on my screen. Helena and Tim Ortell are going to talk about how Passive House can deliver on the climate challenge and RAI actions, the Institute of Architects actions, and responsibilities for helping industry deliver on the climate challenge. And that's coming up on the 7th of December, and that'll be the fourth and final webinar of our CPD series run by the Passive House Association of Ireland. We would recommend that you go to our website, phai.ie, for further information and make sure you book it. We're also issuing CPDs, and remember, today is a structured CPD point for the RAI, and today is your last day for getting your CPD in, and there's no 5-year rule there with the RAI. You have to get it in today, and particularly if you want to carry it for the next year, it's important. So I believe, Helena, unless there's something else you'd like to add here, I believe that's us for today.
The second poll, and we might run that if Brian.
Gosh, yeah, well done. Yeah, the second poll, of course, is for where you would like us to run these in-person events. And if you could click, I think it's multiple choice. You can see why Cork's up in front, if you know my accent. It's starting to rain in there now. And we try to run them around. We affiliate with a lot of the universities and also trades bodies as well. And they're interactive. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 lectures of an evening, and also some trade stands where you can actually meet the main providers in the Passive House circle in Ireland, who've been really supportive to all of us. As ever, we would also like to wrap up here, I think, to thank our main sponsors, Milan, Kernahan, and Ecological Building Systems, without which we couldn't run these events. I'd also like to thank Brian from Core Systems, who is running the background from somewhere miles away in Canada and does a great job and keeps us all relaxed. So if we can get the results there, Brian, there we go. Yeah, well, that's pretty good. Again, as I would say, we would expect, and yeah, I think we might try and develop even more in Limerick as well, where it's fairly central for everybody to get to. But we will run these in the evenings so that they don't take too much time, and we will be issuing CPD for all our events from here on in. Okay, so again, thank you very much, Susanne, and everybody else, and Bob, for all the hard work he's been putting into these thermal models. And we will again see you on the 7th. Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.